And as for the description of Satan and how he operates within our psyche, he's essentially the impulse behind an instinct and which takes hold. For instance, if somebody comes into your fucking house and, fucking tries to fuck with your wife, what's going to happen for you? You're going to kill that fucker. All right? Well, guess what? That's pretty much the instinct in which happens. That's where he lays. That's his domain, is within the moment, for the moment, by the moment, to the moment. Nothing else. You operate purely based on instinct, and that's the element in which he works within our psyche. Now, granted, people have denied this element, so what happens? They freeze. They freeze and they contemplate the situation before they could even solve it. See, that's the element in which we need within ourselves, in which we already have it, we just deny it. In which it doesn't always have to serve the ends of just ourselves, but without it, we're fucked, because then we can't act in any situation purely based on what we know needs to be done, not based upon our fucking ponderance of it. Now, granted, it can also be a seeking to go beyond the bounds of one's own, borders whenever it comes to physical situations or such situations in which you involve yourself beyond the norms of what people are willing to involve themselves with. In which, here's the thing about doing this, and this is the funny thing about doing something in which not everybody else is doing, is you get this strange sense of self-assurance, or pretty much what I would call a foundation, in which this foundation is what I would say the essence of your being. Now, granted, here's what I'll say. When you're more solidified within yourself, you're going to be more comfortable with speaking and saying and speaking things. Now, granted, it doesn't mean that all of them have to be right, and it doesn't mean all of them have to be wrong. But the real essence is you're able to speak. You're able to trust in what you say, and you're able to trust in what others say. And you're able to allow the conversation to manifold just exactly as it needs to, without forcing the result, in which people do tend and try to force the result of which they want. They want to win. Now, granted, back then, did I used to be that motherfucker that wants to win every debate? I used to. I really used to. And there was no benefit because I couldn't speak, because I wanted to win every argument. I would only win them in my mind, right? Whenever it comes to that imaginary plane in which people just get themselves lost on. Which, granted, I had to learn the darker essence parts of myself in order to actually be here, in order to be on this plane and not be leaving it. See, not to get lost up there in the fucking what ifs of things. Now, the one thing I will say is that here's the one essence in which needs to be contributed, is also the essence of being able to see the situation unfold, but also knowing when to act accordingly. Like, for instance, if you get walked up on and, fucking shouted at in your face, what are you going to do? Are you going to freeze, or are you going to be ready? There's two different ways in which it can be applied. Now, granted, I did say the freezing element was a bad thing, but there's also the ready element as well, as being prepared for what's going to come at you. And what I would describe about that is that if you understand God, therefore the observer element, because whenever it comes to God, God isn't attached. God sees what's happening. And if you can't see it from the place of God, you're fucked. You can't choose anything because you're attached and fumbled within the situation itself. And you get fucking hammered by it day in and day out. Fucking stockpiling this weight with fucking memories, with fucking nostalgic shit. Okay? Now, nostalgia, at times, back then, yeah, have I fucking recollected it in order to fucking retain my strength and develop it? Absolutely. But the real essence of being is that nothing has to be built. Whenever it comes to having nothing built, here's what happens: everything's open to you. Every possibility, every situation, because your cup is empty. Anything can fill it. Any filling in which you wish. Anything can fill it, anything that you choose. And that's really the description of the will. Is first managing the inner kingdom and getting rid of all the fuss and, well, let's just say, what's the word for it? The voices in which speak on an internal no day in and day out of what we should do, what we have to do, all these priorities in which the voices just stack up and up and up until it just becomes a hammering point in which you just can't handle it.